And we're back with Demond Mullins, who served this country in Iraq, and he's been telling us about his experiences. Before we took the break, I asked you about Al-Qaeda. They told us there were weapons of mass destruction. Of course, we were misled. Everybody knows that now. But now they're telling us we can't leave because now Al-Qaeda is there. Probably Al-Qaeda wasn't even there when this whole thing began. So have we created the circumstances for Al-Qaeda now to have bases in Iraq when they weren't there in the first place?
Yeah, we've definitely created this whole insurgency. I mean, you have to think one of the biggest recruiting devices that the military can use now is that there's a war going on, so we need, you know, very strong men and women who have, you know, who you know, support our occupation of this land or whatever. We need to win this, right? And so they realize that we're engaging in a war, so they kind of feed the masses, us, this ideology of, you know, we have to win. We are America. We have to win this thing, right? And so you have young people, you know, very virtuous young people who enlist in the military because they want to fight against this other group, right? We want to win. It's the same thing that insurgents are doing now. They didn't have a movement before this. We have ran the most expensive advertisement campaign for the insurgency by being in Iraq, killing innocent people.
It's like a magnet drawing all these people who hate us. They're all there fighting us.
They don't need, the insurgency doesn't need Army of One campaigns. They don't need Army Strong campaigns, because what we show them why they need to fight. Because we're there, we're killing innocent people, we're lying, we're stealing. I mean, things are disappearing in Iraq. Oil, millions of gallons of oil are disappearing. Where's it going? How is it leaving if we're there, if we're supposed to be watching everything? So the insurgency doesn't, we have inflamed the insurgency. We have created the insurgency.
Well, the president will tell you that we have to stay there because otherwise if we don't kill them there, the people who hate us, then they're going to come and terrorize us here. What do you say to that?
You know, we've heard the same thing. Take it back to Vietnam. This is another similarity. You take it back to Vietnam. They said the same thing about Vietnam. You know, you fight them in Southeast Asia, or, you know, you'll be fighting them in the Bronx. You know, it's garbage. It's trash. But we're going to constantly hear this rhetoric until, you know, until they either run the course and they fulfill whatever the purpose was that they had in mind to go there, or, you know, this whole thing gets turned over by an anti-war movement.
You're doing some work for Senator Barack Obama in regards to helping veterans.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, for the past couple of months, I've been doing some legislative consultant work for Barack Obama's senatorial office. And he actually has a lot of legislation that he's thrown out there within the past couple of months to help veterans out. I mean, before you had the other group on, and they were speaking about discharges of veterans who have possible personality disorders or PTSD, and Senator Barack Obama actually asked for a moratorium on that behavior from the military, from the DOD. And the reason why is because we don't know enough. Actually, experts now do not know enough about TBI, traumatic brain injury, and post-traumatic stress disorder to say that it isn't caused by, that personality disorders are not caused by that. So, you know, you have a lot of soldiers fighting in Iraq and fighting in Afghanistan, and they're encountering these IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and it rattles their brain. So then they suffer some kind of traumatic brain injury, and even if it's just I mean, it's hard to say a small traumatic brain injury, because there's a whole spectrum of it. But they suffer these things, and then they come back, and they possibly develop a personality disorder from this. And so then the military, you know, they kind of discharge them from the ranks because they have to pay for their care. They have to, you know, they have to give them disability insurance and things like that, and the military doesn't want to do it. And so these people have been discharged. There was a whole special that went on about it a couple of months ago. But Senator Barack Obama actually offered a moratorium on this activity, and before he even offered the moratorium, he actually asked for a study to be done into this issue. And there's a lot of other issues that he's looking at that are very important, like families who have injured vets, severely injured vets in Walter Reed. You know, they have to take off from work for long amounts of time, sometimes up to 2 years. You know, you have a husband who gets his legs blown off, he's an amputee, he's in Walter Reed, he's going to be there for about 2 years recuperating in recovery. And so the Family Medical Leave Act, it only allows people to take up maybe 3 months off of work, and then they lose their job. They're in jeopardy of losing their job. Whereas like right now, Senator Obama is proposing that these people have the opportunity, have the ability to take off longer amounts of time from work to provide convalescent care to their wounded veterans.
So these veterans, in your opinion, who are coming back wounded, missing a leg or whatever, they're not getting the support from our government that they deserve.
This is it's a very difficult thing to look at. I mean, since I've been working with the senator, I've been to Walter Reed a number of times. I've seen the facilities there. It's some of the most state-of-the-art things, I mean, in the world. It's just amazing. I actually saw an amputee who, a young man, he's younger than me, he had both of his legs were gone, below the knee. And he was walking around on these 2 prosthetics, like, I mean, perfectly fine. Like, he could run, he could do everything. So they have some of the most state-of-the-art things, but it's very expensive. And so what's happening, what you see from this whole VA institution and the DOD hospitals is that, they're cutting corners. So like I have, I have a buddy who was in Iraq with me. He broke his back, his spinal cord when he was in Iraq, and he wound up coming home and he got some of the poorest care ever from the VA. And so you have a lot of different cases. Some people get taken care of, but a lot of people slip through the holes.
In the Bronx Journal, we recently wrote a story about a gentleman who came back, a veteran who came back, ended up homeless. Not only did he end up homeless, living in a car here in the Bronx, but he when he got off the ship, I think somewhere in Georgia, the cops were waiting for him because he had outstanding parking tickets. He's this guy who just fought in a war, and all of a sudden they're waiting to arrest him because he had outstanding parking tickets. That's outrageous. So the treatment, the disparity in the treatment that some guys are getting and some are not is amazing. One last thing before we go. You heard the guys that were on the previous segment with me talking about the soldiers who are in Iraq and who appear to be very gung-ho about staying there and winning this thing. You were there with them. Tell me about that.
I mean, it's very simplistic. It's a very simple concept. I mean, when I was in Iraq, I had to fight to survive. As much as I hated being there, I had to fight to survive, and I was motivated every day to fight to survive, to make it back home. And that's how these guys are, and you cannot blame them for being that way. The only way they're going to survive the situation is by being aware. And the only way they're going to be aware is if they motivate themselves to, stay up at all times at night when they're supposed to be, to keep their eyes open, to watch out for themselves. And so they have to stay motivated about it.
With that, we have to wrap it up. I really thank you for coming. I appreciate your service to our country. And we'll be back soon with another edition of The Bronx.